The waters of Barbados can be described as a metropolis, teeming with life. Many species have made these waters their home, thriving in the vast watery crystal. While they call this home, other creatures are nomadic, migrating, searching from one end to the other, foraging for food and the right conditions to nest. Found in our ocean are the leatherback turtle, the green turtle, and the hawksbill turtle. They are migratory species which frequent the waters of the Caribbean. Their population has decreased for a number of reasons, man-made and otherwise, making them an endangered species on the Endangered Species Act. One species in particular is at risk of extinction, the hawksbill turtle.
Hawksbill turtles are struggling. They've been struggling for a long time. One of the biggest threats that they faced was a demand for their shell. So you will probably be familiar with the term tortoise shell. It's this gorgeous pattern that's amber and brown, and whenever people are selling sunglasses or shades, you often see it coming out as a pattern for glasses frames. I'm going to show you a piece of the shell, actually. This is it right here. So I'm sure it must look familiar, that lighter brown patches with the darker brown and those gorgeous flecks. And this little piece of material right here, this is the shell, the scute from a turtle that died. And this is what all the fuss was about. So thousands and thousands of turtles were killed so that these plates, these scutes, could be harvested. And they were then exported, and they would have been crafted into trinket boxes and jewelry and glasses frames and so on, and a variety of other things.
With survival success limited to 1 in 1,000, the life of every hatchling is important to its generation. But with predators and man-made inventions, the odds are against these little creatures. But why should we care for sea turtles?
Sea turtles are extremely cool, but not just cool, they are also very important. Now let's talk about the hawksbills first, because that is the one that we work with most. Hawksbills are large animals. They're sea turtles. They live on our coral reefs and they feed primarily on sponges. Now, sponges, believe it or not, they're not a plant. Sponges are a type of animal, grows very similar to a plant, but it grows attached to the reef. Now, they're in competition with coral for space. The difference is that while coral is very, very slow growing, sponges grow much faster. So if sponges were not kept in check, they could easily outcompete the coral and take over a lot of space on the reef. Now, the issue with sponges is that they have a quite hard, brittle, sharp exoskeleton, so they're not easy for something to eat. Hawksbills, on the other hand, have the perfect mouth. They have a very pointy beak that's perfect for getting down between rocks and into crevices and picking out pieces of sponge. And their digestive system is perfectly made to digest that prickly, hard material. So they are the perfect predators for sponge.
Sea turtles are solitary and only return to land to nest their eggs. Now, with the impact of climate change, beach habitats are under threat.
Turtles need beaches to lay their eggs. They cannot reproduce without beaches and sand. But we have beaches that are being lost, they're being eroded. They're being narrowed significantly because of the same erosion. You have sea level rise, so the water is coming higher up. You also have these extreme weather events, so more hurricanes, more storms, and they're more intense. We have situations where Barbados has been fortunate to not have direct impact from a storm, but even when it passes close to the island, we still get significant erosion. And the hurricane season overlaps with the turtle nesting season, so there's typically a lot of eggs incubating at that time. And when the sand goes, the eggs go as well. So all of those baby turtles and all of those eggs are typically killed. A narrow beach forces turtles to go further in an attempt to lay their eggs in a location that is safe from the waves, and often in their attempts to find a good place to nest, they end up in the road where they're run over. We've lost 2 turtles this year to being crushed in the road already, and we have had to rescue countless others. We've probably been called, I would say, at least 20 times for nesting females that were in the road. If we get there soon enough, we're able to lift them up and take them out of the road and put them back onto the beaches. If we're not there in time, then unfortunately they're often killed.
Beaches also narrow because of industrialization, which has proven to be another detriment to turtles and their young.
One of the ways that people try to save beaches is to armor the coastline. So they use these massive boulders and they will put in groins to trap sand, breakwaters to break the force of the waves, and revetments, which are boulders along the base of walls in order to protect those walls. But these structures are in turn hazardous to turtles as well. So this year we've had a quite high number of turtles coming up to nest. And when they attempt to go back to the sea, they go over the boulders, but these are massive boulders and they slip down between the boulders. So fortunately, we have not lost any turtles to boulders this year, but we have rescued, I think, about 5 or 6 adult females that became trapped in boulders. In some cases, they were looking for a place to nest. In other cases, they'd already laid and they were attempting to make their way back to the water. Last year, we actually lost some lives, and that was because when the turtle slips down between the boulders, if she manages to slip and she's head up, there's time and we can get to her in time and she can be rescued. If she slips down and she becomes trapped head down, remember that turtles cannot breathe underwater. And when the tide comes up and her head is trapped underwater and she's not able to move, she'll drown. So it's a pretty horrible death, and it's something that we are working on dealing with as well. There are places where persons have put mud on the beach. So we have properties in our island where persons build a house on the beach, and then at the base of the wall, they just bring mud and put down because they want to plant a hedge for some reason. So we lose that section of the beach, but turtles will still come up and try to nest. So they will dig into that soil and attempt to lay their eggs, but their eggs have a very small chance of surviving because of the type of material that they're laid in.
Hope came on the horizon when it was recognized that these sea creatures needed to be protected and conserved. In the late 1980s, a group of dedicated people came together to form what is known as the Barbados Sea Turtle Project, whose aim is to conduct research, conserve and protect the existence of these marine lives. 24 hours a day, teams of volunteers patrol the coastlines in search of turtle rescue missions, or the protection of turtle nesting sites, gathering information on how to help sea turtles flourish.
Trevor and I were patrolling the beach, and we were just looking at the sand to see what disturbances there were in the sand. Now, normally the sand is nice and smooth, just the way that nature, with the wind and the sea, has pushed the sand around, but it's generally quite smooth. And then as we were walking along, we saw that there was a disturbance in the sand, and we could see kind of a path where the turtle came up out of the sea, and she kind of shuffled around a bit, and then she laid her eggs and she covered them. So we can read the sand to see where the nest is. Now the interesting thing about this particular nest is that when we did see the disturbance in the sand, we noticed how close it was to the water. And you can see as the waves come up and the nest is just here, that the water is quite close to the actual nest. And therefore we had to make a decision to locate the nest, locate the eggs and relocate them. So we looked at the different mounds in the sand, dug a few holes and located the nest.
My colleagues and I, we received a report of a turtle nest. We received a report earlier in the day and we were asked to check on it now that outside is a bit cooler, right? And what we're doing here, we've excavated the nest, and the purpose for doing that is data collection, solely for data collection. Sometimes when we go inside, we may still find a hatchling or two that are alive on the inside, and we assist them to the water as best as possible. But apart from that, it's mostly for data collection. We check stuff like the success rate of the hatchings of the eggs, so we are able to count how many eggs were inside, how many hatched, how many didn't hatch, the stages of development of the eggs that didn't hatch, and from that we could deduce certain information, such as, you know, if activities of the area affects the success rate of the eggs, temperature of the sand, and so on and so on. So that's basically what we do, and when we come across nests and when we get reports of nests.
It is because of these volunteers and many more like them that sea turtles can thrive in our waters. And with the motto "No Turtle Left Behind," this non-profit organization welcomes assistance from the public to keep the sea turtle population flourishing.
Every single hatchling is important. Every single hatchling essentially carries the hope for that generation. So we try to make sure that every hatchling that we can makes it to the sea. So sometimes people will say, oh, well, I saw one turtle, but it didn't make sense to call you for just one turtle. We will come for one egg. We will come for one turtle. We will come to check out tracks to make sure that they're okay. And sometimes the simple things, I've had someone call because they found one hatchling, and then we searched around and we found 49 more. And in the end, there were 50 turtles. I've had someone call just because they saw a turtle track going into a construction site and they were concerned, and then when we went, the turtle was actually trapped in the construction site. And if they hadn't been vigilant, because it wasn't possible to see the turtle from the beach, without their vigilance and without their interest, that turtle would have died. So essentially, while we do have an amazing group of volunteers, and some of them have been volunteering with the project for a number of years, returning, for 8 years, coming out every season, helping our turtles. We have international volunteers that have come from multiple years as well. While these people are remarkable, without the general public, without tourists, without people who are simply caring and who are vigilant and who are willing to go out of their way to help, as well as go out of their way to notify us, we would not be able to do the vitally important work that we are able to do.